Right, we start painting watercolor. So we start with a brush. This is a table. The best kind of brush to use for audio has gone. Well, you better come and rescue it while I'm talking. The best kind of brush to use for watercolor is a sable. Unfortunately, if you haven't got one, you can't afford it. And you can't afford it because of the war in the Ukraine. Because the hairs come from Russia, in effect, or the Ukraine. And because of the war in the Ukraine, we can't get them anymore. This brush was expensive. Really pushed the boat out. It was just over £100 when I bought it. If I wanted to buy it now, the retail price is £500. And if you're in the SAA, it's less than that. It's £300. So, you know, if you have a sable brush, guard it with your life. And treat it carefully and treat it as well as ever you can. Now, what you can get is, or even some very good sable synthetic brushes now, which are meant for watercolor. Don't get any bristly ones, and don't get any that are stiff. You want something that bends because of the way you're going to use the brush. And the beauty of sable is, it's got a beautiful point. And you see, it's got a beautiful point. Is that pointing? Yes. So, although this is a fat brush, this is a 12, it's got a point so you can do little detail stuff. It's got a nice fat area around here which will collect all the paint and the water and all that kind of stuff. So you can go on painting for a long time, and it also gives you a chance to use the brush sideways to make different marks. So that is essential. When I come round, I'll have a look at what brushes you've got and see if you're trying to kill yourself by working with something that isn't very good. Okay, because the better the tool, the easier it is to do the actual painting. Right, that's the first thing. Now, the next thing is the paint. I've got a box of paints here. I didn't buy them in the set. I bought empty pans and I put the paints I want in it, in the empty pans. The reason for that is if you buy a box, just a normal box, all the paints in it will be student quality. Student quality watercolor paints have a lot of filler in them. They're not very good for doing glazes and mixes because you get a cloudy color. The beauty of watercolor is that your paints sparkle, but they are so translucent that the white of the paper comes shining through the paint, and it gives your work an extra sparkle. So if you haven't got any paints and you need to buy some, and you can afford a box of artist colors, that's fine, they are available. The other thing is to buy tubes, which I have in here, like that. And these are artist quality. Do make sure that what you buy is artist quality. You use less paint and you get better effects. Right, okay, so you got your brush, you got some water, let's get down to some work. So if you put your brush in the water, and if you want to take up paint, well, that's the way around I want to be. I want to take up, so I'm going to use ultramarine. It's a good color to work with because it's one that you use 1,000 times when you're painting. And if you're going to learn what it can do, so you might as well start by using that ultramarine to the first place. So if you want to pick up paint, you don't just put it in and wiggle it around a bit. You put your brush in the pan, there we are, and twist. So you're twisting the brush in the pan to get the paint within the brush. Okay. Like that. Okay. Have a go. Is there anybody who hasn't got paint or water or anything? Everybody's got something to work with. Oh, that's good. Ultramarine is what I'm using, yes. Plenty of water in the kitchen if you haven't brought any. Right? Okay, so you wet your brush and you put your brush in the paint and twisted it furiously. Now what are you going to do? Number one, don't hold your brush right near the point. You're not drawing, you're painting. So at least hold it further back, just short of the ferrule. And just start to make more marks on your piece of paper. Just see what it can do for you. Right, okay, so we've made a few sloshy marks. Let's see what the brush really can do. So I'm going to just a touch more water. Twist it in the paint. Now, if you hold your brush like that, rather than at the point, so it's between my finger and thumb, it's sideways, right? I can put the brush on the page and bring it down like that. I can take it across like that. I can use it to make any sort of shape that I want. Try holding it that way and see what sort of marks you can make. When you're doing that, if you make it lightly, you'll find you leave spaces. It's a white paper show through, which is an interesting effect. See what you can do with that. Going to paper at a great rate. You're not trying to make a picture, you're just trying to use the brush to see how to use it. Because the beauty of this is if you leave the brush to do the work, you make a much more exciting painting. So if you insist on controlling the thing rigidly, you're going to get in trouble. So try to use it as lightly as you can. Okay, so let's try something else. If you need more paint, take it in. Let's see what pressure can do. If I start lightly with the point and then press heavily and then take the point off again. Right, I'll show you again. I've got the point. I press heavily, take it off again. Press. You don't have to twist it, I just like twisting it. Or you can go upwards. If you take the paint. Or you can do it sideways. If you do it a lot, you can sort of suggest the water as it's coming along. Okay. If you're happy with that, let's see what we can actually do using that. So again, you know something I've forgotten to do. Talk about bad habits. What you should do when you're starting is to twist the brush in the paint and work it in the palette. Of course, I was only using one color and I was in effect working it in the paint. Right, the reason for working it in the palette is that you break down the medium that holds the paint and mix it with the pigment, so you get a good mix. When your paint dries, it dries on the page, and the binder that held the paint together in the pan actually binds the paint to the paper. So, and the water goes away, it gets evaporated. Okay, so supposing I do a shape like that, and the other side. And then or if I can start with 2 or 3 little crosses, and then I make those paints like that. Think of a tulip. You don't get blue tulips very often, but you know, we're working in one color. If you put a dot, reasonable size dot, the brush sideways, put it across the bottom, bring it down, then lift your brush, you've got a person. Right? So I didn't have to draw her. And that person is walking along the road. So we'll make one foot shorter than the other because they're walking. She's got a bag in this hand. Maybe a walking stick in that hand. Gone fishing. You caught one too, by little things. Yes. Okay. So, or you can have a group of people. If you put a lot of dots like that, and you pull the paint down. You pull it down variously. This person is nearer, so their feet are nearer. There you are, 2 or 3 people walking along the road. And it's enough to say people walking along the road. It's not overworked. What you're doing is giving the person who's looking at your picture something to do. You see those shapes and the mind says that's people in my picture. And you can do those in the background of your picture. So don't be frightened of putting people in your picture. It's quite an easy thing to do. How are you doing for time? We're doing fine, good. Right, what else can we do? So if we take up the paint again, and as I take it out of the water or the paint, I'm twisting it and getting that point back again, right? That point is so important. If we start very lightly with the point, press a bit, there we are. You've got your start of a bird. You can put a few ripples around it. I don't know if I can do a bird in flight, but I can try. So So you have the leaf, the wing, the head there, the body there. Sometimes the tails. It's a weird looking bird, isn't it? You know, if you look at birds, you'll be better than me because I don't look at birds enough. People were rather fun. Shall we have a go at people? Find a clean piece of paper. And let's put a series of dots. Remember, these dots are heads. Don't make them too big. You'd be surprised how small a head is in relation to the body. Put some taller than others. And then we're taking the brush sideways to suggest people. This one comes down here. The only people who need arms are the outside ones, because the rest of the arms are hidden within the group of the people. So there's a set of people. Supposing we put some more on the other side. Now you'll notice that I've got the people's feet in a diagonal line. So I'm going to do the people's feet on the other side in the opposite diagonal. They're on the other side of the street, the lane. It's a pretty narrow street, isn't it? So we turn them sideways. This person walking here, carrying the bag. This person a bit further. This one going even further down. Give them a pair of decent trousers. Okay. This one. It'd have to be 5 people. There we are. Right. Now, if we wanted to put the buildings in behind, using the brush on the side, I'm coming down. And when I get here, I'm going to leave a space around the heads. At least I am if I can, which I can't. My hand is shaking. So what are you doing to a girl? So there's and then there's a break before the rest of the street comes in. So now we can go back and play with those figures and do other things with them. But very quickly, without too much angst, I put some marks on the paper that say, people, you've done a street scene. Obviously, there'd be more detail in that if you were actually doing it, but you've got it basically laid out. What I'm trying to do is to tell you that the brush can do so much of what you're trying to achieve. And if you're careful with your shapes as you're painting, you can make quite a credible street scene. If I used a bit more paint, I could put some windows. In the buildings. So they look more like buildings. Perhaps there's a streak across the top. At no time am I pressing on the brush so much that I can't release the pressure. You need to treat it gently. Sort of, what was it, Bob says? A hair and a prayer, something like that. 3 hairs and some air. That's the sort of thing that you're after. Okay. Or supposing we were going to do a cityscape. If you want a dome, and there'll be a tower somewhere. Perhaps with a bit of on the top. Maybe something along there. A few houses along here, roofs and things, but just the top of the thing is what we're showing. Okay, and then if we leave a little gap there and put in some water, dry the brush, put in some water underneath. All I'm doing is fiddling around with the brush, just getting to use the brush.